Good evening, everyone, and happy Thursday. My name is Brad. I am a life coach, and as you know, I do a fair amount of IG Lives. And tonight I have a special guest with us. Her name is Melissa, and she runs the page, The Glory Hole. And yes, you heard that name correctly. She coined it years and years ago before it was even allowed. And so I'm excited to have her on here and get to discuss her experience, her background, and what she has coming up. And it's one you don't want to miss. She is funny, lively, active, everything you can imagine, and articulate. So she will be joining us here shortly. Oh, there she is.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I good?
Are you all good?
I am. Totally.
Well, we are to have you on here tonight. Excited?
Yay! I'm
Yeah.
just turning my volume up. Is my volume good?
Your volume's good for me. It's all.
Okay.
Is mine okay for you?
Yep. Perfect. Let's see if we can get there.
Hey, why don't you just take a moment and introduce yourself to all those that may not know you?
Okay. I am Melissa, and right now I'm just going by that without extra names, but I'm sure in time that'll all come out. And I wrote a memoir called The Glory Hole that you were introducing about 15 years ago, and then I never ended up publishing it, and I've revisited it, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, fourth generation, actually, Seventh-day Adventist, I guess. And for people who don't know what that is, it's just a basic, super fundamentalist, evangelical Christian denomination, and it's huge. It's 21 million members worldwide, which is just below the Catholics and the Baptists, I believe, in worldwide membership. It's bigger than Mormons. It's huge, but nobody seems to know about them.
Yeah.
It's a very secretive, cult-like thing, and so that's my mission in life, to shine some light on them, because they've gotten away with too much for too long. So here I am.
Well, we cannot wait to hear you shine the light on things, and I'm always excited about that. So tell us a little bit about your personal religious background, like how you began and then eventually how you kind of got out and deconstructed out of it.
Yes. So I was, like I said, like generations of my family have been Adventists. And so I was never given a choice. I didn't ever choose to join. I was just a perfectionist from the get-go. So if I was in this religion, I was going to be like the best Adventist you've ever seen type of thing. Got baptized at 12 and all of that. But I don't think I don't know that I ever believed the doctrine or the dogma. It was just, I didn't have any other experience. Adventists have, I think, as all religions probably do, a spectrum from liberal to super, super conservative. And my family was on the super conservative end. So, but their basic church doctrines are they go to church on Saturdays, from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. You do nothing but worship God and read the prophet and blah, blah, blah. They have a prophet. She was this dour Victorian dragon, Ellen White, and she got hit in the head with a rock when she was 9, and she started seeing visions from God. And so, of course, no one thought perhaps just brain trauma. It was visions from God. So she she wrote just millions of words, volumes and volumes of books on just how Adventists should do everything, how they should breathe and think. And so her Adventists are vegetarian, no drinking, no smoking, no music, no TV, no movies, all kinds of bizarre things like no swimming on Saturdays. I'm not sure why. But and then Ellen White came up with the whole no spices either. So you couldn't have mustard or pepper or anything because that inflames sexual desire.
Wow,
Think about that next time you pull the Heinzer out, you know?
that's my problem.
Well, just a funny little side note. So Kellogg, who started Kellogg cereals, he was an Adventist, and he started making oat flakes or whatever the first cereal was because he also thought that a really high fiber diet would dampen sexual desire. So
Wow.
there you go.
Guess if you're on the toilet the whole time, I guess that would damper, right?
Exactly.
High fiber.
Right, there you go. Kind of puts the damper on the whole thing. So yeah, totally wacky. But so we were raised. So they have their own schools. They have their own everything. We were raised in a town for most of my formative years. Anyway, we moved around quite a bit, but mostly in a town where the Adventist seminary was, and they had a college. They had multiple elementary schools, high schools. So we never, I mean, even like the postman was Adventist. So we did not have any contact with the outside world. And of course we had no TV, no anything. So I didn't know what else was out there. So I was a good Adventist. But again, as far as when did I start to deconstruct, I'm still hazy, and I've been thinking about it for decades. I don't know. I think I honestly was one of those people, I see all these earnest postings of, we are viewed in the deconstruction community as just people who wanted to sin. And that's not true. You know, we have all these serious objections to the theology, and God bless them. But I think I was really one of those people who just wanted to sin. I just, and so it was pretty easy for me to leave the theology behind. We were forced in our family to read the Bible every night and the prophets' books and everything every night, but I can't remember any of it. I don't know. If you ask me about the Bible, I remember when I went to college, because I went to a non-Adventist college, and all my friends, once they heard my background, would come to me when they were taking, you know, comparative religion or whatever, and they'd be like, well, what do the Christians believe? And I'd be like, fuck, I don't know. You know, I had just been out for a couple of years, but I blocked it all out. And so I was just out there on the sin train. That's what that, and but so for me, deconstruction has been a super long process, obviously decades, because there was no deconstruction community when I left. I graduated from the Adventist high school, and I was like, I'm out of here. And I never lived at home again, and I never went to church again. And I thought back then, you thought you were done. You left, you're done. That was easy, you know. And then you realize I have seriously just been putting the pieces together since I joined the deconstruction community 6 months ago. How much damage obviously was engendered in your upbringing that way, and how it's repeated patterns in my life over and over again. And so now I'm deconstructing but again, not the theology side of it, just the behavioral and the societal and the, you know, everything else. So yeah, I does that cover the, okay.
I think what I'm kind of stuck on is the fact that I've been missing it the whole time. I should have got hit in the head with a rock. I'm famous and have a cult after me, right?
That's right. And see, because you're a man, then you could take all the child brides too, because that is absolutely obligatory.
Yeah, that kind of disgusts me, but yeah, I could, I guess.
Oh my God. You know, I mean, on that score, like, so David Koresh, obviously he was Adventist. There was a guy I went to high school with who started a cult, a Koreshian type of Branch Davidian thing. And, you know, he had the child brides thing. I think for certain cult leaders, that's just, you know, in the manual somewhere.
No, right? It does not. I don't understand it. So let me ask this. Knowing that you came out of that, you left, now you're deconstructing. How did your leaving affect your family?
You know, bless them. It still shocks me to this day that basically when I left, immediately like a don't ask, don't tell situation. And I ended up having, every once in a while, my parents will say, oh, we wish you would pray. And they want me to come to church when I visit them for Christmas or whatever, mostly because my dad will be preaching or something and they want my kids to see that, which he's a great preacher. And so I want my kids to be able to witness that once or something. But I mean, I took them once and they were like laying on the floor by 10 minutes in. By the time dad preached, they were just dead. So it didn't work. And, but I feel for so much of the deconstruction community because I read these horror stories of people whose families are just being nasty and mean, and I didn't have to deal with that. It's been, now that will probably all change once my book comes out, but,
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but
there you go.
that's going to totally, okay, well, we'll get to that. But
Yes.
let me this with you have a very unique family history. Okay, obviously, when it comes to being steeped in religion, you are a poster child for that. I mean, your picture could be there. What are you shining a light on, if we could say that, when it comes to the dysfunction of religion? Like, what is it you want to shine the light on and say, see, this, for lack of a better word, shit?
Yeah. There are so many things, and we'll talk about some of it when we talk about my book later. But the thing that has really gotten to me lately that the Adventist Church does to an extreme degree is so my partner is Native American, and through him I learned about the residential schools and and the atrocities committed through them. And so then I learned that there had been some Adventist residential schools, and then I learned that there are some still in existence. And so I started a war with the one in Arizona, squalling at them about, what are you doing about this situation? And then I realized that don't even talk to them. It's not worth it. But the problem with the Adventist Church is they are very, well, one of the millions of problems. They're extremely missionary oriented. Most of their, I don't think they have more than 1 million or something membership in the United States. I don't know what that number is, but it's pretty low. Out of the 21 million, it's mostly outside of the US and mostly in developing countries. Even Europe, they do have some, but not.
Right.
And so they are extreme missionaries, which is common. Obviously, the Mormons are famous for it, etc. But Adventists are extremely medicine oriented and education oriented. We get confused sometimes with the Christian Scientists or something, because people think somehow Adventists don't like medicine, and that is so not true. Like, every male member of my family was a doctor. They have their own medical school that's very well respected, and so they go all over the world with medicine, basically, and education, and they strong arm people, and they do this on reservations here in the United States as well, but they do it everywhere they can. Find a population that they can target that is not not overflowing with Western excesses, and they basically bribe them. You can have medicine, or you can have English lessons, or you can have an education. Just come be a good Adventist. And to me, that is just, obviously it's colonial, and it's missionary, evangelical. It's just evil. It's so evil. It's so wrong.
So they specifically target certain civilizations, if you will, and they go in there and on the ruse of medicine.
Yeah. But my father participated in that a lot because he was a preacher, and he was also a doctor. So he was one of their poster. He went all over the world, leading stop smoking clinics and heart health clinics and blah blah blah. And come pray with us, and then you'll get access to. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And so if you would adhere to the rules, then they would help you with medicine.
And I'm sure I never actually faced someone and said, what if somebody comes to you and says, no, I just want to do this. I'm not going to listen to your stupid prayers. I don't, I'm sure they would say, oh, we welcome everyone. We're not, but I cry bullshit on that,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. It's because you talk about how the strong arm things,
Mm.
and so I'm wondering, I mean, do they turn people away or not care for them as much if they're not willing to listen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I know for the schools, they lead schools for kids, and it's just nonstop Bible lessons and blah, blah, blah. So yes, they're learning to speak English, or they're learning, basics, but it's just nonstop dogma, of course. And so, and they're sneaky about it. They're awful, like the school that I'm fighting with in Arizona, the residential school. On their website, if you go and look, they say, oh, we're creator-based spirituality, trying to cover up the fact that they're fundamentalist Christian bullshit, but they're trying to cloak it in language that is more acceptable to Native American cultures. And they do that all over the world with whomever, they can try to target what their in is with the spirituality, and they claim that that's what they're teaching, and it's not.
Huh. I see that Kay Aubrey said mission trips equal poverty tourism.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
See, I'm so old, I can't read. So sorry if I'm not replying to anybody.
No, you're good. You're good. It's funny because you're right. The Seventh-day Adventists, you don't hear a lot about. They do the radar. Whereas like the Southern Baptists that say, we'll flaunt it and say, we just went to this poverty type area and Jesus to these people.
Right.
All to kind of boost their numbers. Fake care, if you will. It's interesting because it seems like the Seventh-day Adventists do that, but they don't publicly throw it out there.
They don't, and they try so hard to stay under the radar. And Ben Carson, when he was running for president, he is an Adventist, which he never publicized anywhere. And I've heard through people who are still sort of connected to the church that apparently there was a big kerfuffle within the church about not wanting him to be on the public stage because they didn't want Adventists to be out there in they're secretive, and it's also a superiority complex, which I know a lot of people talk about. It's part of white Christianity, but they think they're better than everyone, so why should they mingle with the world? But only to save all those poor souls, of course.
So Katie replied here, says, do you follow at No White Saviors?
No.
What you're saying, what they work on. And
okay.
So No White so that might be something to check out. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you for that. I will immediately. Yeah.
So we're going to get into a little bit about your memoir here in a second. That's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
You're writing this, obviously, still writing it, correct?
Yes.
About experiences within this cult or religion and the damage it's done to people, not only yourself, but to people. Okay. Would you care to share a little bit about what your book is about and where's it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I, like I said, I left the church when I was 18. I thought I was done. I thought everything was grand and groovy. And then in my early 30s, I found out that more than one, actually, male member of my family, one of whom I was super close to, had been child molesters, basically, in their official church capacities or school capacities, and that just rocked my world. And even though I'd been out of the church and I knew that they were awful, but it just did, then it's in your family, and it just, and so it threw me for a tailspin. I started just writing about it because I'm a writer, and then I can't even remember, but I was reading news articles about sexual abuse in the Adventist church, which it's very hard to find anyone talking about it.
Sure.
But there was one that I came across, and I was halfway through this article, and I realized that this woman who was being interviewed was talking about one of my family members. And I was like, oh my goodness. And she had given her name. And so I wrote to her. And funny story is her name was not super unusual, so I actually wrote to the wrong person first. So there's someone out there who got a letter from me who's going, what the fuck? But so eventually I figured out who the right person was, and I wrote to her, and she was amazing. She wrote back, because I wrote and said, you may not want to hear from me, but I am getting lies and bullshit, and I really need to know what happened. And she just opened up and welcomed me, and just, I mean, it was an open book. She gave me probably more information than I could handle at the time. I was like, I'm not a big deal. And we are friends to this day, and that was a long time ago. But she has been absolutely supportive and helped me kind of, she's older than I am, so it gave me also a window into the Adventist church from before I was kind of cognizant of it. And she has a lot of other stories, and she's the one who first told me that the Adventist church believes in female circumcision. And so really? Then I looked that up, and there it was in the manual on becoming a woman that we all had to read when we were teenagers. And the guy who wrote it was a doctor at the Adventist Medical School, and he believed in female circumcision to prevent it was just a small little surgery to prevent excessive masturbation, which drains your energy. And I don't know what the fuck else, but
they also circumcise or males in that denomination.
Well, I mean, they are circumcised, but for sure, but not not like curious. Their sexual organs ripped off like right. For females, Yeah.
So wow. So they really didn't want a woman to have any fun.
No. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know who writes stuff like that are the people that actually excessively masturbate.
Exactly, because nobody else is too worried about it. It's it's like, oh my God. Yeah. So that was interesting. She brought a lot of clarity to both to my life and also my picture of the Adventist church in general.
Yeah.
So then I started writing about that and about our friendship and concentrating on the church a bit more. And so I set it aside. At one point it got too intense. I had an agent at the time, and they said, why don't you make it sort of like John Krakauer's Under the Banner of Heaven? Make it like an expose of the church, and then weave in your memoir pieces. And I started to do that, and I got reading the Adventist Prophet again and all their stuff, and I just completely had a meltdown. And I couldn't. I dropped the whole book. I dropped the whole idea of it, and let it sit for almost 15 years. And then recently, because I've been so upset about the residential school thing, it brought up all this Adventist shit again, and I was like, I'm going to revisit the memoir, and I have a much stronger, different take on it than I did before. So now's the time.
Okay, good. And did it mess with you before because you were triggered by some things? Or
yeah, it was very triggering. I was also I hadn't dealt with how the Adventist church had affected me. Like I was saying, I thought I was out, so I thought I was fine. And now I realize, a lot of the stuff that people talk about here in the deconstruction community, like how vulnerable and prone it made me to falling for narcissists and sociopaths all my life, not being able to set boundaries. I mean, I still don't. I'm not quite sure what a boundary is or how to set it. All those things I hadn't. So it was very triggering to go back into that headspace. Now I feel like I guess I've set a boundary.
Yeah. Some boundaries. You've healed some. You know, says, I'm so glad you're doing this important work. So, uh,
Oh,
do
hey, there you go.
I do think it is important work. I agree totally with Shelley because, as you said, they fly under the radar and you don't know
Yeah.
anything going on.
And they're huge and they prey on vulnerable populations. And that is just not okay.
Yeah.
I've never felt like I have a mission in life ever. I've just kind of, and I do not want to leave this earth without beating them over the head with the biggest stick I can find.
Yeah. I hear it sounds like you have your mission in life. So that's good.
Thank you.
Or do you have an idea of how long it'll take you to finish or any idea on timetable?
Well, yeah, I don't know, honestly. Obviously, if I were to get a big book advance and be able to concentrate on it full time, I could probably finish it in 6 months or something. There is that sticky family situation. I'm not quite ready, and all the other memoir writers out there will understand this dilemma, but I'm not quite ready to face my family, putting that out there publicly. So I need to work through that piece, but I'm just continuing to work on it. And like we were talking about a little bit earlier before we got on, just yesterday I found out that I won a big contest with that memoir material. So I don't know what that's going to mean right now, but thank you.
It is phenomenal.
I don't know if that's going to push a timeline up or if that's just going to give me more support for working on it on my own timeline. I don't know what that piece is going to look like now. So it's a big the big unknown.
Yeah.
But I'm posting little segments on my Instagram and gonna keep working on it.
Well, that's amazing. I love your Instagram. Okay, so let me ask you this. Say somebody's looking to come out of, Shelley says congratulations, by the way. Say
Thank you.
Come out of the Seventh-day Adventist religion. What advice would you give them as they exited?
That was such an interesting question when you sent it to me, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And the Adventist church has this funny thing that I've talked with a bunch of exes also about. They will not take your name off the books. Myself and several other people have been fighting with the church for sometimes decades. I still don't know if my name is on. I assume they'll take it off once I publish my book. But until then, they do all kinds of strange, again, strong arm tactics of trying to shame you by taking it to your parents, saying that they have to vote on it in front of the whole church. All kinds of bullshit. But there you go. Somebody says, nope, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, it is. Oh, there you go. Hi, Georgia, no. So I would warn whoever's trying to leave that that's going to be its own fight. But obviously that's one of the smaller pieces. I think for me anyway, there were three different pieces. There's the logistical, kind of practical, like when and how you're going to leave, and are you going to try to keep friends there, keep community there? Are you just gonna so there's just those things of how are you going to accomplish leaving. And then there's the theological piece, which I know people really struggle with for years sometimes, and again, I did not, but I think it would bear well for people who really were committed to the theology to spend some time thinking about how they're even going to approach that, and are they going to try to find a different spirituality? I almost said sexuality, but that too, sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, a lot about that as well on your page.
Right, exactly. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I am pretty much an atheist, so I didn't have to try to go find another community, but I do think that people who are very committed to a church and whatever, that they need to spend some time thinking about that. And let me see. And then what is my other little, and then for me, the most important thing is making sure that you plan to process the trauma. And I did not. and you have to have your therapy there are all these great books now to read also, but therapist, and know who your support people are in your life that you can turn to. And because that part will dog you for the rest of your life.
Well, great advice.
Unless you deal with it.
Yeah, just wanted you to know that Katie says that's amazing. Congratulations as well for your memoir and your grant.
Oh,
lots of support.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm totally blind without my reading glasses, so I see all these little things blipping up there, and so I apologize to anyone and everyone that I'm ignoring because I'm old and need reading glasses.
It's all good. All good. So I know this wasn't one of our questions, so you don't have to answer it, okay? But you brought up interesting. You talk a lot about sexuality on your page.
Yeah.
Is that because of the past with the Seventh-day Adventist? Is that the main driving thing to say, hey, be aware of this? This is what, when you come, let's say, jumping on the back of that last question, for somebody that's leaving the church, something that people should maybe explore more or get healing for, because undoubtedly it will affect your mental outlook and everything like that.
Yes. I write about it a lot because I think that's the way I processed. I mean, we were pre-purity culture, but the Adventists had their own awful fucked up version of purity culture. And especially for women trying to leave, I think that's a huge piece of, but I'm learning also, you and I've had conversations about it, I'm learning it affected men also. And it's huge. The concentration of all these fundamentalist religions and evangelical religions, or denominations, why they're so obsessed in controlling people's sex lives, I do not know. But it's so damaging. And so for me, I lashed out in sexual ways first to try to process getting out. And so definitely, I mean, people leaving who are already married and stuff, who can't go through an exploration process, I don't know what advice I have. I feel for them, and I will keep writing about the whole sexuality piece until the day I die, because I think it's so important. And the first podcast that I interview that I did, that was she's so amazing, and she had only escaped purity culture at 31, and she was 34 at the time, and that's all she wanted to talk about is like sex, and just because it was just it's a rough thing. So if I can share my experience, I'm totally happy to do it,
Yeah. And I totally, you and I have talked about this a little, and obviously the purity culture, it really impresses upon women, more so than anything else. It does something different for the guy. At least from my standpoint, it is obviously still fear-based.
Yes. Yeah.
But it distorts the view of woman's role or non-role or anything that they see within that. And it's a way in which religion takes and controls marriages, and then they control the sexuality of not only the marriage, but the sexuality of the children through that.
Right.
And so that they can then begin to impress upon the minds of the kids.
Right.
When it comes to church. So it messed me up.
Yeah. Oh, how can it not? And I mean, controlling women's by controlling their sexuality is like a time-honored game, right, throughout all of humanity's history. But purity culture has its own fucked up twist on it, and it just, I feel like what I can share is, I mean, I went wild, after I got out. And so I went, I think, just the crazy end of the spectrum. And that wasn't healthy either, so I've had to process that all, reel that back in. But I just think it's so important to talk about. And it's hard to talk about. It's really hard to talk about for a lot of people. So I'm putting it out there. And I hope it helps,
No, I'm thinking about putting more content on that out as well. But from a male perspective as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I can't really speak from a female perspective as well, but just the mind games it plays. Because just like that, I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't turn that. No, this is okay to do now. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I mean, it was always a no.
Yep.
So it took a long time for that to change, and most men don't talk about it.
No. Yeah.
It's
You're right.
quiet. You know,
Yeah.
maybe I can create a space for people or for
Yeah.
men, like
Yeah.
to be able to stuff like that. So, okay,
Mhm.
so awesome. Let me ask you this: we're listening to you talk about all this amazing stuff, and oh my goodness, what you have going on is number one, bold. It's daring. It's courageous with the way when it comes to your family. It's enlightening. I just love what you're doing. So, what can we look forward to coming up, or what can we help support you? How can we help support you with what you have coming up around the corner?
Ooh. Um, wow. Gosh. I mean, people have been so amazingly, I've just been so in love with this community. I mean, just everyone's comments and book suggestions and all of that have been so helpful. Um, what you can look forward to coming from me is just more memoir, pieces and updates on when and if the book is going to be coming out. Patience, I guess, please, on that score, because it might
Do
be a
you think I
while.
signed copy?
Um, but
Hey, can I pay you for a signed copy?
there you go.
I'll pay you for a signed copy. How about that?
There you
Love
go. There you go.
it. Yep,
Signed copies for everyone.
there we
Um,
go.
yeah, I don't know. I'm at a really funny point. I think this contest has kind of thrown some unknown into it now. I yesterday I probably would have had a different story, but I guess it's coming faster than I thought.
Yes.
So,
Wow.
and
I
definitely
mean,
I just want to hear from people. I mean, especially if there are Adventists out here who ex-Adventists, whatever. I want to connect with you because there are very few of us, and we need to talk to each other. But also, I just love hearing from people. I love hearing people's stories. I love their questions. I'm a pretty open book. There's not much that I won't, try to address.
yeah, I love that about you. Their boldness and how, hey, it's all like what you see is what you get.
Life's too short, you know?
It's totally. It's like I
Really
try to
is.
explain the fact that I wear my feelings on my sleeve, so everybody knows what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling all
Yeah.
the time. You know,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Now, for anybody that's watching this now or is watching it in the future, there's that little bar up there. You can click down, go and follow her. Uh, Go and follow the Glory Hole. I just love that name. That name is just um, go and follow. Not her content is top notch, and she's always open. And she will talk to you. I've asked her questions, personal questions through a DM before, just trying to get her perspective on things. And I can't tell you how much you have helped me.
Oh,
Um, you have helped so many others
oh, good.
with your content and your page.
Good. You're gonna
And
make me cry.
it's done and done. So you have another follower there because it's one of the pages I religiously go to, Melissa, every
Oh, oh,
to see your content.
is wonderful
So
because, you know, when you're putting it out there, you think, well, this could be seen as really self-involved, or this could be seen as helpful, and you hope obviously it's helpful. I can only
well,
talk about my own experience, so it's about me, but I'll talk to anybody about pretty much anything.
I've got to tell you, I appreciate you. I thank you for taking the time to do this IG live. Uh,
So fun. This was my first one ever. I'm so excited.
you're no longer a virgin on IG live.
Well, we won't even go there.
That I know of.
I love it.
we,
Perfect note to end on, right?
we should do another one about sexuality. I think that would be
Yeah,
interesting. I like that because I'll talk about anything.
There you
Uh,
go.
so I'd
We
love to
can
hear.
get
Uh,
into it.
yes, totally. Um,
Sign.
does anybody, before we wrap up here real quick, does anybody have any questions for Melissa?
Oh, here you
Uh,
go. I have
yep.
to. My vanity has to go by the wayside. I have to put my glasses on. Okay. Oh, yay! Treasure the houses. Yes, I'm here for it.
I love it.
Fun.
Oh, I love it. So any questions, feel free to DM her.
Yeah.
That's okay for me to say that.
Mhm.
For
Mhm.
myself, we are both here. That's a wonderful thing about the deconstructing community is there's no competition.
That
Uh,
is sure.
it's just trying to help each other in any way we can. So if someone comes to me and they're a Seventh-day Adventist and they say, I've got this issue, without a doubt, I'm like, well, you need to go talk to her. You need to go talk or someone,
Mhm.
or a lady has a sexual issue. It's like, hey, do you know anybody? Boom, there you are.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so I appreciate you. I cannot wait to post
I'm
this.
you.
And
Mm.
done in our time frame with 4 minutes to spare. So no arrangement of time had to be done.
Yay! Look at that.
So thank you so much, Melissa. We really appreciate it. And thank you
Thank you for
all
having
you
me.
do the community
Absolutely.
and the freedom you're bringing to people. So
Yeah.
thank you very
Oh, yes. All right.
much. All right.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great night.
Awesome.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.